Hola, ¿cómo están? Bueno, hoy vamos a reaccionar un video de una consola muy rara, que es el Car Marty, hecha por Fujitsu, la compañía japonesa. Que creo también era Marty 1993. Y bueno, ¿qué tal está?
A games console in your car. Hello cave dwellers, welcome to the cave. I guess if you own a Tesla, you practically have a games console in your car these days. And thinking back, you might remember the scene from The Fast and the Furious. Do you remember there was the guy with the PlayStation fitted in the center console of his car? I think the cool kids call it ICE, in-car entertainment. And the pinnacle of that, or at least a fun showpiece for some people, was to put a games console in their car. However, it was happening long before the Tesla and long before the Fast and the Furious and Vin Diesel muttering things about family. It was happening in 1994 with a games console that we've got on the desk here. This is a really rare beast. This is the FM Towns Car Marty, a games console specifically designed to be installed out of the box in your car. It's from 1994. It would have cost you 120,000 yen, which is £700, 800 US dollars, or 830 euros at today's exchange rate. So if we just quickly adjust that for inflation, £1,540, 1,600 US dollars, and the euro didn't exist in 94, but if it did, it would have doubled like the others have, so 1,600 euros. And it certainly looks like something that you would put in your car, judging by first impressions. Now, its full name is the FM Towns Car Marty. The FM stands for Fujitsu Micro. And the Towns comes from Charles Towns, who was a Nobel Prize winner. So at the time, Fujitsu liked to name their systems after Nobel Prize winners for some reason. So that's where the Towns comes from. To understand the heritage of the Car Marty, we need to step back a little bit further down its family tree, starting with the FM Towns, which looks like this. But it isn't this. This is an FM Towns 2. Sadly, I don't have the first FM Towns, but we can use this as a visual representation. It's pretty much the same thing. The original FM Towns was released in 1989 and the range continued until 1997. And the original unit contained an Intel 386 CPU running at 16 MHz. And you could also add a 387 maths coprocessor if you wanted a bit of extra grunt. Up to 6 meg of RAM was supported, and 1 or 2 3.5-inch floppy drives could be fitted internally as standard. And there's also this PCMCIA slot. The main competition for the FM Towns would have been the PC98 range from NEC, which had been going since 1982, and this big beast here, the Sharp X68000, which we've seen, loved, enjoyed, and indeed caressed many times on the channel before. This appeared in 1987, and it was superior to the FM Towns in terms of its graphical punch. It really was a spectacular machine. The X68K was distributing games on floppy disks. The FM Towns had a cutting-edge CD-ROM. We then moved to it developed away from desktop form factors, with the top-of-the-line HC model hosting a Pentium CPU at 90 MHz, before there was a big shift in 1995 to the FMV Towns. So with that FMV Towns, we now have a the 3DO car. Let's talk about consoles. From the FM Towns, this is a battery-backed up SRAM card. So without a floppy disk drive, of course, it's a CD-ROM based system, so you've got no way of actually slot loading CD drives. It just seems fancy to me. I guess because I started out with CD drives that used caddies, and there was one point in my PC, and it must have been sort of the second or the third CD drive that I ever owned. Might have been a Pioneer. Yeah, I think it was a Pioneer branded one, which was a slot loading CD drive. And to have come all the way from caddies to just sliding a CD-ROM in the slot felt like the future. For some reason, it still does. I know there's nothing special about it, but there we go. We've got 2 D9 slots on the front. So they're made for your joypad, your Marty-compatible mouse. Won't work with any old mouse. It has to be a specific one. Or something called a NaviPad. Now, a NaviPad was effectively a joypad, but it was a joypad designed for use in one hand. So I guess you could have mounted it on your dashboard, or you could have had one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the NaviPad. It sounds completely unsafe, but there you go. It was an optional extra. There's also a Type 1 PCM-CIA slot on the front here. Now, I don't think there are many devices for that slot, but I do have a memory card here. So this is a battery-backed up SRAM card. So without a floppy disk drive, of course, it's a CD-ROM based system. So you've got no way of actually saving. There's no hard drive in here. So you either have to save to the memory card or you have to add a floppy drive. But that slot very much like the type you would see in your laptops of the same period or through to the late 90s and beyond. The only other add-on I can find that uses that slot is a modem. I can't find anything else that was used in that slot. I'm sure there are other things out there, but that's all I can find. I think it was mostly used for memory cards.
¿Listo para vivir el fútbol como nunca? Te presentamos Fibers, la primera aplicación 100% de fútbol.
I keep referring to this as a games console and talking about how funny it would be to play video games in your car, but actually it did have a much more serious application, which would have been a key selling point. And that, of course, is GPS navigation. Not many people would have had GPS in their car in 1994, as ubiquitous as it is today. We pretty much all use it. And to achieve that, you would need a memory card, you would need the GPS navigation software, and you would need an optional GPS dongle, which you would position up somewhere where it could lock onto enough satellites to tell you exactly where you are in the world. Now, I do have the software here. As you can see, it's very much written in Japanese. And of course, this was only sold in Japan, so the maps are really Japanese specific. It's not like I can go for a drive around today and follow some streets and show you how that works. But we can have a flick through the software manual here and you can get a flavour for it. It very much looks like a GPS satellite navigation piece of software. Back to our tour of the console now. On the front, there's an eject and there's a reset button. And yes, you could use this as a standard CD player. Your car might only have a cassette deck at the time. I'll just spin it around now and you can see on the back it gets a bit interesting because it has all of the ports that you need to turn this into a full-blown FM Towns. We've got ports for a keyboard, we've got ports for a floppy disk drive, so you can go from sat-nav or music in the car to carrying this by the handle into your house, plugging it into a keyboard and a floppy drive, and away you go with your important spreadsheets for work. Gaming around the front and business at the back. And then there's this odd port over here which isn't labelled. Now apparently this is how you would connect it to your car. You would plug a cable in here and you'd have that running out to your existing car entertainment setup. It would also feed power into the device, it would take a video output from it. So you have that one multi-connector to make it easy to plug in and go with the car. And from looking at the pinouts on this, one of them you would connect up to the parking brake or the handbrake line on the car. So the system would know if the parking brake was on. Presumably, and now this is just a guess because I don't know if this is how it works, and if you do know, please let me know, but presumably to disable certain functions when you're actually driving. So maybe you can change music CDs, use the music function of it while you're driving, but you can't actually boot a game when you're driving or something like that. That would be sensible, but it would be, ill-advised for me to assume that those kind of safety features were built in 1994, but there's certainly a pin out there for the parking brake. And then when you head into the house, there was...
¿Qué más?